Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Kiomet thing. This is a little bit different from my normal sorts of time lapsey videos, and this does not look like the Kiomet you remember. I'm sure, unless you've been present in the Discord for the last 4 or 5 days. So I have been playing on the beta branch of the latest Kiomet update for a while now, since it was released back at the start of the month, and it's been a lot of fun. There's been a lot of discussion about the future of the game, where we want to see it headed, both as a community and from the dev standpoint. Both Squirrel and Jimmy, two big players in that regards, have been playing the game pretty regularly, along with everybody else. And it's kind of the focus of today's video. If you noticed the video title, this is the first day. This recording was taken on the first day of the beta, and I noticed that Squirrel had spawned in on my border. And I went to get something to eat, and I came back, and suddenly Squirrel was attacking me. So I'm like, oh no, I need to kind of sort of figure something out to resolve that. So we'll start the video. We'll see how it goes. I need to find my music. There it is, and let's begin. So I had just gotten back from eating. I kind of tripped over myself trying to get my recording system set up, and excuse me, music. There we go. And so this isn't even on my gaming computer. This isn't even on like my normal recording videos computer. It's just kind of on like my casual computer that I've had for like 10 years. That's quite well aged. So I didn't have voiceover. I didn't have the opportunity to put my headset on and speak. If I do this sort of like live gameplay of the game in the future, I would like to do that instead of the after action report kind of style thing like I'm doing now. But unfortunately, that just did not work out for this video. It was quite a spontaneous decision to make. And Squirrel has a lot of dudes. Even though he's only 300 points and I'm about 5 times that, he has a lot of dudes and they're all coming at me. So I decide I want to attack him from multiple directions. I don't want to just throw my units into the center and just have this hours-long back-and-forth war with him. I want to try to finish it quickly, so I can go back to eating my pizza. And I had just finished fighting and consolidating the last number 2 player, not Paris Commune, but the number 2 player before that, and just checking to see if the bot that I have pacified is gonna cause me trouble there. And so my supply lines were not really set up to get right into another big war, so you're gonna see a lot of me redirecting the supply lines and adjusting a bit, because it's just not set up. It's not set up so that I can easily direct my units yet. So unfortunately, as you will see here in a moment, my Chinese neighbor here, who is my ally, that's what the purple means. The purple means that you're allied with them. Took the northern part there into Squirrel. So alliances are new. Alliances are going to be new in the new update. You cannot attack your allies. You can send troops into their territory, but if you do, they will become that player's units. So you can't like do a sneaky backstab, or at least not in the sense of like funneling troops in and attacking them like that. You can backstab. I have done it a number of times. But I notice he starts firing nukes, so I realize that I'm probably going to have to pull out the nuclear capabilities. It's not something that I like doing a whole lot because this sort of micro-intensive warfare is not my forte. I'm good at directing units, choosing where and who to attack. I'm not great at the surface level combat of fighting section to section, position to position. And that sort of micro-intensive war that breaks out when you start using nukes is just pretty much the epitome of that, because you have to target them well, you have to target the right things, you have to time them properly, because you only get, one every 5 minutes or however long it is. So I usually try to avoid nukes until they start throwing nukes. But once the nukes come out, the best way to deal with that is more nukes, funnily enough. I don't think nukes are amazing, but they are great at countering other nukes. So that's just the way that it is. So I work on building my radar up, making sure that I can dig deep with my nuclear strikes and not just hit surface level targets. And I start trying to stymie the bleed, because he's getting quite close to my projectors. I often use projectors to funnel my troops. Sometimes I'll use barracks, but usually it's projectors. And if he manages to cut off my projector over in this area, this one right... Stop it. Stop moving around past me. This one right here, that's going to stymie probably 2/3 of my forces, so it's kind of a big deal. It's kind of a very big deal. So I keep working at getting my nuclear capabilities set up a little bit, and here's a great example of the troop transfer between allies. So these purple units here will move onto my territory, and they will become mine. Just like that. There we go. It cannot be done with your king. If you try to move your king into an allied territory, he will die. So my ally kind of cut me off a little bit. I'm gonna be honest with you. I kind of wish he didn't do that, but you only have so many limited ways to speak, and of course, well, I don't speak a whole lot when I'm a dinosaur. I'm a dinosaur. I don't remember where I got that from. I think it was from some roleplay, online roleplay that somebody else did somewhere. But other places, I don't know. But I got a little bit of a stutter there, so I'm not really sure what's going to happen there. I might just lag a little bit. But that's okay. That's alright. I don't think it will miss much, but I'll take a look at that in post and see what's up. So we have nukes flying everywhere, and the front line is pretty much stalemate. I've pushed in a little bit of a wedge, but I have not really been able to move much farther past this central point. Squirrel is very good at the game, and obviously many more hours than I could even imagine. So he hits this spot with a nuke. That is really bad. That is phenomenally bad, because I know it's within range of his nukes down here, and I'm not going to be able to build that back up while he's continuing to hammer it. So I have to redirect my troops from a bit farther back, which has its own problems. But I need to try to keep that projector online, or he's going to start pushing me back. And he does start pushing me back a little bit. But as the fight continues, he would push me back more if I don't keep that projector up. So I prioritize my targeting of nukes based on distance from unit producing buildings and based on whether they are nukes or not. I always focus my nukes on their nukes first. That way it takes them some time to build them back up. And then I focus on unit production buildings that are far away. Try to make it so that they have to waste as much time as possible trying to get those facilities back online. It's just the slow wear and tear of the player, basically. Because now, in order to, I'm just gonna pause for a second. In order to get a unit to take this back, he has to manually target it. If I had targeted this one first, as his barracks is reinforcing his front line, they will naturally move over that, and he won't have to do anything. So I always target the unit production on the peripherals first, and then I move deeper as the war goes on, if they do not restore production into that facility, if they don't take it back. So I don't worry too much about mines or strongholds or defensive buildings or even like sight range extending buildings like the radar and whatnot. They're kind of low priority targets for me. Like, they help. It helps to have a radar. Like I have one right here that is letting me see deep into squirrels' territory, but it's not really necessary. As long as they don't have the capabilities of attacking you, they will not. So dealing with the ability for them to attack you first, and then dealing with like their vision and whatnot is the priority that I take. So I adjust my offensive line. I've effectively split him in half, although I don't necessarily realize that just yet. I also don't realize that this section down here is relatively isolated as well. But again, he's continuing to pummel this projector. That is a very good tactic for him, because that is where a large percentage of my forces are coming in. And I keep looking to make sure nobody's attacking me from behind, because that's always one of my big paranoia statements, is that somebody's going to attack me and take like 500 points from me while I'm fighting somebody else. So my Chinese neighbor asked me if I need any help, and I don't answer him, because I don't really know at this point. I think I do my stupid little roleplay. I don't know why, but I get a kick out of it. I do. It's so much fun for me to kind of mess with people like that. I break my roleplay. I have broken my roleplay multiple times in the beta branch, because it's kind of hard to discuss important game information while also playing around with stupid roleplay, memes. But oh, I need to turn my air on. It's kind of warm in here. One moment. There we go. But definitely normal play, I would just respond to everything with "I'm a dinosaur," and watching other people try to figure out like what I mean when I say that is just gold. I've had people be like, say it once for yes and say it twice for no, and I just keep saying it. But silly, stupid memes aside, I'm not making any progress on fighting Squirrel. I'm making a little bit, and it's noticeable up here, where I've more or less cut him off, and down where he has all those nukes targeting my projectors, as well, down in here. Because again, he's relatively cut off here. I don't realize that at the time, but I do now know that in retrospect, that this area down here is pretty much on its own. But as far as the main front, nothing's moving. It's just the back and forth right here. Again, Squirrel, a very good player. A dev, obviously. Well, I don't know if they're actually Squirrel or an impersonator. I assume that is Squirrel based on the fact that I've seen Squirrel playing a bunch in the beta. This was the first day of the beta, and there was some relatively high-level discussions in chat about the game. But it very easily could have been an impersonator. I've been impersonated in the game before. It's not that difficult to do. There's no real way to prevent that. So, just more discussions in the chat about my name and, people not liking the purple color and Squirrel saying, well, if you don't like the color, then you can always betray the Alliance. Which is true. You can always betray the Alliance. So now that I have kind of leeway in this northern area, I can expand the focus of my nukes and start covering more of the production facilities and prevent him from really building up decent units up there for micro. Again, my primary goal is to make the war as non-micro intensive as possible because that is my big weak point. But finally, we have a bit of a breakaway, and I'm starting to push a little bit deeper into his core territories over here. All of this, I think, used to be mine. I could be wrong about that. When you're that large, it's kind of hard to notice specific areas. But all of his units are just being funneled into this central point, and it is slowing everything down to a slog. So, a couple of other things that have changed with the beta. The world borders are now based on the number of players, which it was that way before, but instead of the map expanding outward for quote-unquote infinity until you hit the wall of zombies, the land doesn't exist unless a player spawns in. And the more players that spawn in, the more land spawns in, and border zombies no longer exist. Zombies in general no longer exist, and it's kind of nice. I actually really like it. You get some interesting terrain features with the way the world gen spawns, and that can lead to interesting situations where you're like fighting over choke points. And as you can see here, despite still being 5 times as large as me, as a smaller player, choke points can greatly equalize the war. And I truly believe, that if Squirrel had gotten any more help, this war would have been much uglier. Because I have multiple people funneling me troops as well. Paris Commune is funneling me troops. I don't believe Nub is yet, but Nub funnels me his troops in a little bit later. Spoiler warning. I don't know whether they knew I was fighting a war with Squirrel or not, but I also don't know how many troops of, especially Paris Commune, who's on the other side of the map, actually arrived onto the front, because that is another thing that has changed. Units don't last forever. They sort of have a lifespan now. They only live, I believe, 200 tiles. So like this, traveling from here to here would be 1 step, and then they can do that 199 more times before they sort of attrition themselves to death. And that change was made because you can now create loops of troops. So you can set up projector A, B, and C, and you can connect A to B, B to C, and then C back to A, and your troops will go in that loop forever. But obviously they needed some way to prevent you from just getting infinite troops, and the best way to do that is to put some kind of survival limit on it. So Squirrel has adjusted his strategy. He is no longer focusing on attacking me and trying to push in. He is focusing all in on the defense. And you can see kind of effects of the world gen over there on the sides, but I think we go back to that a little bit later, and I'll discuss a little bit more then. Um, he's really focusing in on just trying to prevent me from pushing deeper towards his king, and it's working decently well. Obviously, like I have so many units, I have such a large unit advantage, but even so, it's still working very well. This war in any other context would be a slaughter if the player was less skilled, if there were more players involved, if the terrain was um, more flat, as in like if we had a really wide border, I guess I should say, then this war probably would not have lasted as long as it did. And it's lasting a while. I mean, we're already at the 20-minute mark. I believe the whole video is about 40 minutes, so we're in for the long haul here. But yeah. So there's been a lot of adjustments. I don't believe that I'm going to be making a time-lapse video of the new update until it's officially released. Things are still very much in active development. I think even the first day there was a reset or two to fix bugs that were found. And one big problem was that's a great overview, by the way, of basically the world. There's only 10 players in the beta. The beta overall has been very small. I've seen a max of like 25 people at one point, and that's when big groups of players from China mostly were playing in the early hours of the morning, because the game's very popular in China, at least comparatively speaking, and that's fine. That's great. I love when multinational people play. It makes it a little bit hard to tell what's going on in the chat sometimes, but I try my best. I tend to have Google Translate or something up on my second screen, and I just try to have a good time with them, because they're people too. They're all people. We're all people. Everybody is human. So, and again, very effective defense. Just focusing on this single choke point. I don't know if the barracks would have been better than the mine, turning the mine into a bunker and going from there, but it's working, so that's the important part. But yeah, there was a real big issue at the start of the game. Also, the chat being in the bottom left-hand corner has caused me multiple problems. I keep trying to scroll things through it and not being able to, because the chat is a physical entity that you cannot really do anything behind. But I'll get used to it eventually. That's not a big deal. And I don't know. Well, I don't know. I don't know if that's going to stay for the beta or if that is forever. But either way, that's a very minor thing. But yeah, there was an issue with the first iteration of the game where people weren't spawning in with enough space to really do anything. So what would end up happening is you would spawn in basically right up against one of the big players on the map, and they would just immediately destroy you, or demand that you ally with them, or risk the threat of being destroyed. And it wasn't great. That issue was fixed, I believe, for day 2, and made significantly better. Maybe it was day 3. No, I think it was day 2. I'm trying to remember about 4 days of updates. I basically have been playing it constantly, more or less any free time that I get. Of course, I also have a full-time job, or I would be on it constantly. But effectively what happens is players spawn in, you get a certain space of land that you can expand into. So Adam... Go back. So Adam and Ava here, they're both bots. When they spawned in, all of these sections here spawned in with them. And when you leave, all a lot of the land will disappear depending on how many players are online. So it can create these like long winding trails of terrain that you have to navigate or fight through, which is really interesting and really cool. I think it's really cool anyhow. I know some people have complained about it. They've called it like an octopus or spaghetti borders. All sorts of things, but I like it. I think it's a lot more interesting than the sort of homogenous mass of land that it was before. But you can kind of see that down in the south over here, where like these like tendrils of land coming off of it is where players or probably bots. I was not actually doing a lot of spawn killing of players because when I first spawned in the first day, I got killed about 5 different times by the #1 player on the leaderboard because of that issue of not getting enough space to expand into. And then when the #1 player left, I spawned in basically right in the middle of his territory, and I took a large chunk of it. And that's basically how I became #1. So I'm just looking here. I wanted to see if barracks were better than armories for funneling troops. I don't think it matters too much, but I wanted to check spawn times because Nub was funneling me troops, and a lot of troops as well. And it's a great example of an ally providing a large amount of support to you and allowing you to punch a little bit above your weight. I don't really think I needed the help, but again, we were kind of testing things, figuring out what was best, what was functional. That's why I also built a tower on his border, a projector, so he could maybe try funneling troops into it and see if that worked anymore. But it's an interesting balancing act, because one thing that Paris Commune and I had to figure out earlier was ways to automate funneling troops in, because you can send troops into a territory, but as soon as they enter that territory, they become your allies. So you have to have your borders end with a production building or a projector, so that you could sort of automate that. You don't have to manually move your new troops in from the border. So we had this weird little thing where, like, I unallied him for a few minutes so he could take a village from my border, so that my border would be a projector, so that we could easily funnel troops to one another. But then he had the issue where I couldn't funnel troops to him because our border was now it takes a lot of trust and thought to work with allies like that, and I hope that you don't get absolutely ruined. But at this point, I think the war with Squirrel is mostly won. I don't know if maybe he was busy with other things, because obviously he was working on the game on the back end as well as fighting a massive war with me. But of course, he doesn't really have a whole lot to work with at this point either. He can only really attack me from one direction. Maybe he could have sent these troops in to harass me from this angle, but you know, it is what it is. All of these like orphan sections, all these exclaves here, this one here and this one up here that I'm slowly taking over, none of those areas really have any production buildings left, so he can't really mount any kind of offensive operation from there anyway. So it's really just his core areas now, and now I'm getting fed troops by Nub, which is massively increasing my force projection, how much power that I'm offering. So at this point, my palms have stopped sweating. I am fairly confident that I am going to win the war. I probably should have offered him an alliance at this point. I don't really know why I didn't, but it is what it is. Just this massive line of troops coming from Nub. So, what else has changed? What else has changed? No zombies. No more zombies. Alliances. You can now loop your buildings. Let's see, I've worked on spawn mechanics. There's obviously been a lot of quality of life improvement and changes on the back ends. I believe Squirrel mentioned in the Discord that larger empires are now not as resource intensive as they were, which is always good. That's always nice things. But I think the ideas moving forward for Kiomet is more of a focus on getting players to coordinate, to get alliances and betrayals and proxy wars and all that stuff, rather than just expanding out until you get bored of expanding and then leaving. And it is nice to be able to see who's hostile and who's not hostile. So this is a good example. I don't really know what my Chinese neighbor is doing, but he's asking if I can funnel troops into his border. So I'm like, all right, I have this war against Squirrel 1 now. I can afford to move some of my troops away. And I just have to figure out what the best way to do that is. And I find that he has a barracks on his border, and that will work just fine. So I just divert, just a little bit of troops into his land, just enough to give him a little bit of support. And whatever he wants to do with them is what he wants to do with them. So that is his choice. He could be attacking one of my allies, or, who knows what. Who knows what he could be doing. So Nub is still trying to figure out the best ways to work and cycle troops and funnel troops in. And I think there's some losses now sometimes when you adjust. I don't know. I just I've only been about half paying attention. Even at the time, I was only about half paying attention to what he was saying. Important things to discuss. How things work. Both he and Paris Commune were discussing various things, and I think at one point we discover a bug where we could fire units off with nuclear silos, a la Dr. Strangelove. And that got fixed. That was a bug that they knew existed, but didn't get fixed for the latest beta patch, and then they fixed it pretty much immediately afterwards, which is fine. It's kind of an amusing bug, but that's okay. They were air launching units across big gaps for a while. It was great. So I pretty much dealt with the entirety of Squirrel's northern areas. It's just a matter of essentially at this point pushing in and finding its king. And I still don't know exactly where his king is. Probably as far away from the border as possible. That tends to be where I would put my king as well. It's just a matter of hunting him down. But there's a few other adjustments, but obviously the major ones. Alliances, the ability to funnel troops to one another, no more zombies. Although, I would like to see some kind of zombie mode in the future. I don't really know how that would be implemented, but some mode where players fought against the zombies. It's very it's very territorial IO-esque, where you just have a mode where you fight zombies because zombies are zombies and they're popular or whatever. And there we go. There's a good example of a bot spawning in on my border. So all of this was empty before, and now it is not empty. bot spawned in, taken the land that spawned in along with it, and now I have to respond. So that is now how the borders work. It's a little bit jank, and again, it's already been massively changed for the better than what you see here. It'll be more interesting, I think, when there's regularly 50 to 100 players. Because there will regularly be a large amount of territory. It's not going to just be a dozen players fighting over the same territory. And when one player leaves, the territory disappears, and you will no longer have access to it. Because there will be other players that will constantly be cycling through. But yeah, I'll be curious to see how this will affect the time lapses once the beta is over. Again, I think I've said this once before this video, but I've tried making this video 3 separate times to no avail. But I don't know how time lapses are going to work with the beta because it's constantly being updated, and once it goes over server side, you're gonna have players who think that if you don't ally with them, you're going to want a war, and they're going to fight you, or they're going to know that you're AFK, and then they're going to want to fight you. So I may not be able to AFK and just ride under the radar, like a few of my videos, and I don't know. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how things change, because it's very easy, to organize an alliance to take down another player now, and that's good. That should make it easier to deal with larger players in the future. But time will tell. Time will tell. I'm certainly going to try to do time lapses, and when I do time lapses, I'm probably going to try to start them when I'm allied with everyone, and then we'll go from there. But I don't know. We'll see. And I still have not found Squirrel's King, which is odd, because I have most of his territory at this point. So as you could see, briefly, I moved towards one of his satellite dishes to hopefully get vision of the rest of his territory. And we'll see if his king is maybe somewhere in the back corner of his empire. It would have to be, but we'll find him. We'll find exactly where it is. We'll hunt him down. Yes. Yes. And overall, at this point, it's mostly just cleanup. Clean up and hunting down the king. Because even his territory, he got massively unlucky with this large swath of land over here. All of this land, there's only a few production buildings in this section. So there's not really any easy way for him to mount a counteroffensive from that section, which is unfortunate. But this is why we play the game. We play the game for these large wars that focus on like the tactical aspect. Even though it's kind of my weak point, it's still fun. And that's why I play Kiomet, because it's fun. Unfortunately, this is the big problem with using projectors, is that you have to kind of springboard them off of other production buildings if you don't have any other ones in the area. So, I'm reaching the back end of Squirrel's territory, and I'm still not finding his king. And I am a bit concerned at this point that I may have missed something, or he's larger than I expected. Which, 139 points, it's less than half of what he started with, but it's hard to say. Who knows? Who knows what he's doing? Obviously, I can't see what's in the back half of his base. But at this point, I know he's pretty much tapped out for resources because his offense has pretty much stopped, and even his defense has kind of waned. It's just a matter of trying to find the best way through, and right there he is, the Squirrel King himself. So now I know where his king is. It's just a matter of maneuvering to try to get as much of his territory as possible. Again, when a player is defeated, if there's not enough players online, the territory disappears. Especially if it's not along the border. So I want to try to take as much land as possible before killing his king, for fear that if I don't, the territory will just disappear. But then I'm like, maybe I should just resolve this scenario. I go back to my slice of pizza that's now cold at this point, and go from there. And of course he has a bot behind him as well, which is very interesting. But I'm trying to get my units connected to my supply lines so that I have less cleanup to do later on, and sorry about the yawn. So that was a good example over here. The bot killed itself, as the bots have a tendency of doing. That's nothing new. And when his king died, the territory that he held despawned because it was on the border. And checking the leaderboard a little bit. I had it in my mind during this that I would try to get to the #1 spot and then call it a day. So that was my goal. And a goal that I accomplished. Of course, I was dethroned rather quickly after that, but that's okay. That is the way of things. Records are made to be broken. And I think the old records in the regular Kiomet game will continue the way they are, because some of them are absolutely insane. So the war is definitely winding down at this point, and I have a decent chunk of Squirrel's territory, and I decide, well, I suppose it's about time that I finish this war. The war is pretty much over at this point, and I just want to emphasize how good Squirrel is at the game. Very well played by him, and I didn't mean this to just kind of be a... I didn't intend for this video to be just, I dunked on a dev and won. Squirrel played very well and absolutely deserves props for fighting as long as he did. And honestly, a lot of it was to discuss the changes to the game. This was just kind of a nice little backdrop for it. And it makes a good video title. Look, I have to be thinking of the video title, and nothing says good video title like I went to war with the devs in the latest beta. So this is all good. It's all in good fun. Squirrel is a very good individual. Responds regularly to discussions on the Discord, and is all around just generally very good. Very, very good at responding to input, criticism, and ideas. So you should absolutely check out the Discord for the game if you haven't already, because it's just honestly, it's a great community. So it is very good. So I'm just doing the final push here. I'm coming in. I'm going after his king, and I get ready to do the GG. I always like doing the GGs. Even in character, I'll do the GGs, especially if it was a very well-fought war. And it's just a polite way to end out things, you know? You don't want to be like, lol, get wrecked, kid. That's very rude. So the first couple of waves of troops here are going to break his shields. And then the wave behind it's going to resolve the war. Yeah. Send a few extra troops just to be on the safe side. And of course, with the tanks mixed in, all of your units move exceptionally slow. Now, I wasn't 100% sure whether or not this initial unit would be enough to actually break into the bunker, so I do hit the GG a little bit preemptively, but it's pretty much just enough to destroy the shields for the facility. And then he strikes back with some aircraft. And then, what's this coming down here? From downtown, the bot coming in for the kill. And he does. He gets it. The bot... And I'm completely flabbergasted. I'm like, wait a second. I didn't get that kill. I didn't win. And just out of nowhere, the bot swoops in with a bunch of planes and kills Squirrel. And I just was just completely blown away that happened. Oh man, it was great. Truly a laugh out loud moment for me in real life. And that's the end of the video. That's it. That was the resolution. And good game to Squirrel. That was a great war. Especially considering the fact that I was being funneled troops by literally the entire map. I mean, I was being funneled troops by Paris Commune. I was, especially in the latter half of the war, being funneled troops in by Nub. I was funneling a little bit of troops away into my ally in the Chinese player individual, but that's okay. So it was literally him versus the entire map. And he lasted a very long time, which is very good. So lots of cool things coming down the line for Kiomet. I'm excited for it. I can't wait to see what happens in the future. And we will see what happens in the future. But until then, happy gaming.